All right, folks, welcome to our introduction on unit number 8. I guess that's 5, right? And 3, 8. Um, I have spent a lot of time doing the work that I asked you to do just prior to this video. And there are some things I want to point out, so here they are. Let's talk briefly about the concepts here. Here's an equation with the double angle, and here's an equation with actually a trig equation. So let's go back over here and solve this one. The sine of theta is 3 over 5, and the angle's in quadrant 1. So quadrant 1 right here, correct? Okay, now remember the sine is 3 over 5, right? Okay, now we're asked to find sine of 2 theta. Okay, know the identities by understanding where they came from and working with them. Please do not think you have to memorize all these identities. Now, have a little sheet. I call it the green sheet. I'll share that with you later. But we know that the sine of 2 theta is, I'm sorry, there's a 2 here in the front. 2 sine theta cosine theta. That's an identity. So I'm going to pull that right part. 2 sine theta cosine theta. Well, hey, it's just twice times the sine of the angle, which we already know is 3 over 5, times the cosine of the angle, which would be 4 over 5. That makes sense. Well, this is just 12 times 2 is 24. 24 over 25. That would be my answer. Okay. Now remember, this is theta, so it's asking for the sine of twice theta, whatever that is. This big angle here would be 2 theta. All right, so that's one type of problem that you may be able to do, that you should be able to do, and there's other versions of that. Now, for our second example here, you're asked to solve an equation. This is a big part of trig and why we study identities. Let's just do the simple one. The question says cosine of theta is negative 1/2. Find theta. Well, we know that cosine's negative here and negative here. And we also know that it's a 60-degree angle where the cosine is negative 1/2. So that's 60 and 60 here. All right, so it's asking between the interval 0 to 360, including the 0, but not including the 360, what are the angle measures? And again, that one would be 120. And this angle would be what? What's 60 and 180? 240. Okay. So let me say again, if you know the unit circle cold, this is not that hard. But if you haven't invested in that early, you're going to have a lot of trouble. And I don't want you to have trouble. Okay, what we want to do is we want to look at these tasks just briefly. Okay, let's look at this advanced organizer for a moment. This is actually a good overview of what we're trying to do. And we need to talk more about identities, figure out more identities, and solve trig equations. This first part that has to do with identities, I'm going to have to say this section right here, this first part, is very helpful information. So in lesson 1, you know, more about identities, how to work with identities, and how to prove identities. You have the sum and difference identities. These are key right here. It's worth knowing them. And then you have the readings and exercises. And try to remember, folks, again, this is the minimum amount of reading and the minimum amount of exercises. I would make sure that you just remember that. And you have this quiz, 8.1. All right, let's take a look at that second part. On 8.2, remember the second lesson in Unit 8, this is where we talk about the double and half angle identities and solving trig equations. And again, you have this textbook situation here. Okay, so remember, in the reading for 8.2, it's telling you what sections of the book to go to. And we have a student that bought the book and received the book. We have folks that are reading from the PDF copy of the book. So all of that is good. Okay, what I did, students, is I clicked on the exercises for that second part, and it's given you a few of the exercises from those sections of the book. So again, that's helpful, and then it gives you the answers. All right, so keep that in mind. Okay, let me offer a kind reminder about the exercises. I would make sure you do, as a minimum, the odd problems in the exercises that go along with the course. That would help. Also, don't forget you have that solution manual which is available, which is a very, very helpful resource. Please be mindful of that. Okay, also folks, as you get done, you notice that you have the 2 quizzes. So I'm going to take out my 2 quizzes and give you some advice. Okay, so after I'm looking at my quizzes, and as you know, I want to get all the answers right, and sometimes I got to study something out or I miss something, so I make mistakes too. But all of the questions are pertinent questions. Now, on 8.1, I would give you this advice. Take the quiz first, go all the way through there, don't submit it, but go back and check your answers, okay? And only change those that you made a mistake. I made a mistake on a sign, so I could have caught it if I went back over it. And on 8.2, here's my advice. There's only 10 questions, okay? So take time to check your work. Now, what I would do is, to check your work, I would use another way to do the problem. So if you used drawing a picture and using the identities, then use your calculator to check your answer to make sure it's right. That would be my advice, and plus you kind of refresh your mind on how to use the technology, and that's good too. Again, that's my advice on the quizzes. Let me talk about this Unit 7 discussion for a moment. Here's some good videos. Well, I got the wrong one. Hold on. That wasn't good, was it? All right, so Unit 8 discussion. I'm going to put some videos up here and handouts, and I'll put the directions down here at the bottom soon, what I want you to do. A couple things to point out. This video will be over here, Unit Overview. I am going to derive some more identities. I'm going to call that Advanced Identities. I did a couple videos on how to solve trig equations of different types. I would strongly urge yourself to click on these 2 and go through those. That'll be very helpful. I'm going to put a video here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some sample problems of the exercises in chapter or Unit 8, so 8.1 and 8.2. And maybe that'll help you see how I do the problem. And then you have some videos from Khan Academy. That really helps. Here's another one on equations. Now, this is a handout on how to do trig identities. That will be very helpful. Here's a good video. I would watch that one. Now, down at the bottom, I need to point out to you a couple things. This is the trig formula sheet that you used on exam 3. These 2 are from a formula sheet that I didn't come up with, but I found over 20 years of doing this work. So this is the front side and this is the back side. I call it my green trig formula sheet. You could print it out if you want to. You could use it in your studies. You could hold on to it, okay? Please know that it cost me a lot of time and energy to get that. Now, as far as a decision on what I'm going to post on the exam 4 in the final exam, I have not decided that yet. And what I'll do is I'll send a survey out and then send an email on that. But if I were you, become familiar with these sheets, okay? So hopefully that helps you out. Okay, speaking of green here, let me give you some what I call final advice and encouragement. Okay, first, please learn the material. There really is no substitute for that. Number 2, please do the exercises. The odd problems on the short exercises would be a bare minimum. You could do that. The odd ones, check your answers with the solution manual I talked about in the course resources. That probably would be a big help. And folks, if you need help, get help. There are some resources that are available, and I enjoy learning from each other what you do when you get stuck with trig. That was really good. Also, don't forget to look at that green sheet and see how a lot of the things that we studied in trig can be found on that sheet. Well, this is all for Unit 8, Introduction. I wish you well as you work through this unit, and best wishes to you. Thank you.